What's going on there, all you friends, true believers, and newcomers alike? Superfly Comics Guy here, very excited to be bringing you a review of the Gotham City Sirens Omnibus, or as DC's marketing team likes to call it, the Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens Omnibus. We'll be taking a look at the cover, the spine, the contents collected, the build quality, and a flip through where I get to share some of my thoughts, opinions, and recommendations. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick around. And if you like the video at any point, you know how to show it. And if you're a nerd like me, feel free to leave your own thoughts, opinions, and recommendations in the comments down below. But for now, let's dive into this book. Okay, so starting off with the dust jacket to this omnibus, we got this very vibrant cover here by Gilliam March from one of the issue covers in this book, featuring our three protagonists here, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman. Very Charlie's Angels here with the three headshots. The only cover available. No variant covers for this omnibus as far as I know. There's the spine for you. And the back. Oh man, try not to get lost in that artwork, huh? You know exactly what I'm talking about. And this book collects all 26 issues of the Gotham City Sirens series and a tie-in issue, Catwoman number 83, with a cover price of $100 US and $131 Canadian. Flip her around and have a look under the dust jacket. And there we are, yet another cover here by Gilliam March. Quite like it. This one reminds me more of I don't know, it's giving me like James Bond vibes. There's the spine once again for you. And the back. Another cover featuring our three, well, I was going to say heroes, but more like protagonists. But now it's time to dive into the contents of the book. Alright, so flipping through the Gotham City Sirens Omnibus. Gonna do my best to keep the discussion spoiler-free as usual, but keep in mind, I will be flipping through artwork, so the art itself might contain a spoiler, but that's about it. But man, I had such a fun time with this book. I read it all in a single day. The whole thing. I had such a good time, I didn't want to stop reading it, so let me talk a little bit about it. So this takes place roughly around the same time as Paul Dini's Batman run, specifically during the Hush Money arc. So by this point in time, it's after the events of Heart of Hush, so Catwoman is still recovering from the physical and mental consequences of that story. By this point in time, Harley is, she's without the Joker. She's kind of doing her best to go out off on her own. I think this might be the first time, really, they started to kind of explore that side of Harley Quinn, her being on her own and not with the Joker. And Poison Ivy has, she's taken over Riddler's apartment through some creative brainwashing of her own doing. And it's pretty interesting. This is around the time period where Riddler's reformed and he runs his own private investigation firm, which is pretty funny. But the idea here is, Catwoman on a night out, she's running across the rooftops as she does, but she gets attacked. And the fight gets pretty dicey, but she ends up being saved by Poison Ivy. And they go back to that apartment where they also run into Harley Quinn. And these three realize during this time that, we're kind of all in a similar situation. We're just sort of on our own, doing our own thing, but our interests kind of align. So, why don't we try to work together and, live together? We seem to make a pretty good team. So, Catwoman funds a new hideout for them. There's a greenhouse and lab area for Poison Ivy, a pool and a gym for Catwoman, a toy room for Harley, and a cool, arsenal of weapons and a computer room. That's what I meant by, the Charlie's Angels vibes that we get here. And they're just kind of living together in Gotham, going on their own little adventures here. What I really liked about this book was that it adds a lot of depth to these characters, Catwoman, Ivy, Harley, who would have just been villains or just, at best, supporting characters in other series. they get a lot of focus here, and you get to explore a lot about each one of them. You know, for example, Harley's, she's trying to be more positive. She's trying to rid herself of the Joker curse, I suppose you could call it. But, you know, she's struggling with an angry side as well. But you also get to see how brilliant she is. I mean, there's this great bit towards the end of the book where Harley is trying to break into a particular location, and you really get to see the sort of hidden genius of Harley Quinn, how smart she can really be. You get to see a more human side of Ivy. She's trying to be more in touch, I suppose, with society. She's trying to get a job with in botanical research. And Catwoman, I think, probably gets the most development out of all of these characters. Her backstory is focused on a lot, especially her relationship with one of her relatives that kind of gets complicated towards the second and third acts of this book. That's why I think it's kind of misleading to call this book Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens, because, yeah, Harley Quinn is in it, but she's not really the primary focus. It's three characters sharing the spotlight, not just Harley Quinn, but I get it. The marketability, right? But anyway, the first large chunk of this book is written by Paul Dini, and he does a really, really good job setting up all of these characters. You can tell he has a really good understanding of all of them, each of their traits, and how they might grate up against each other. You know, yeah, they're living together, yeah, their interests align, but these three ladies are still different, and those differences often cause some disagreements, some conflicts. For example, when the team is first created, one of the first big things that Ivy and Harley confront Catwoman about is like, hey, if we're going to trust you, you have to tell us who Batman is, because we know you spend a lot of time with him. How does that get resolved? Well, I don't know. You'll have to read this book, but it's really interesting, to say the least. It plays a large part. Those conflicts between each of these characters play a large part in this book. But after the first 11 issues or so, Paul Dini leaves the book and a new writer comes along. You know, and that's the part I was, getting worried about, because what I've heard people say is like, the rest of the book isn't as good after Paul Dini leaves. But honestly, I disagree. I had a really good time with the book after that point too. Like, yeah, obviously I love Paul Dini. I love his writing. But I still found the rest of the book to be pretty solid even after he left. In general, I just think this book is really easy to even enjoy on its own, because it's mostly self-contained. You don't really need a lot of knowledge about the DC universe or these characters to enjoy it. Like, yeah, extra knowledge will always help, but I don't think it's necessary. You can still have a really good time with this book. There is the occasional tie-in with like another event. Like, there's a bit that ties in with Blackest Night. But the only time I really got confused was during this one random issue towards the end of the book called like Judgment on Gotham or something like that, where it kind of veers away from the main story that's going on in this book, and just for the sake of a tie-in, it's trying to tie into another story, and that kind of left me confused. But it's really just for that one issue. The rest of this book is really easy to understand on its own. As far as the art goes, in the beginning, most of it is done by Gilliam March, or what I like to call the butt show. That's what that portion of the book is called. Lots of tantalizing tookuses drawn by Mr. Gilliam March. Feels like whenever there's an opportunity to draw a lady's backside in this book, he will take it gladly. But he also does, I believe, all of the covers of the Gotham City Sirens series. And there are some really, really creative ones. Like, the covers to this series are amazing. Like, take a look at this one from issue 16. What a creative and unique angle to draw. Like, I don't know. Just really big fan of the covers. And I also got to say, it is awesome to see Harley in her original Jester outfit again. Like, that's Harley to me. Like, yeah, I get that, you know, she's got a new look nowadays. Just, you gotta love the classics. But other artists you get in here are David Lopez, Peter Nguyen, Andres Guinaldo, and Jeremy Hahn. And the art overall, I mean, well, it didn't blow me away like I was kind of hoping it would, but it was still pretty consistently good overall. Even when the artist switched, I didn't really mind it. You know, it was pretty cohesive, I found. As for the extras, there aren't really any. It's just a few small covers here at the back, and that's all you really get. There's not really an extra section to be talked about in this book. Now, as far as page count, we have 648 pages in this omnibus. There is the very, very tiny eye, as you can see, and you might also notice there is a hefty amount of glue. So you probably saw I had to keep a hand on this book at all times, and that's because the binding is very, very tight. And there's a lot of glue. So I gotta be honest with you, you're going to get gutter loss in this book because of that tiny eye and all that glue. It doesn't lay over particularly well. It does kind of want to shut on itself. But overall, the page quality is quite good. I never had any page bleed. There's no page numbers or table of contents, but on the back of each cover, it does tell you the issue you're on. So for example, this is issue number 6. And that's something I quite appreciated. I like knowing what issue I'm reading. So just to wrap up here, guys, I think this is a great read, a really good companion piece to the Paul Dini Batman Omnibus if you have that. But also I think you can enjoy this on your own, especially if you're curious about any of these characters in particular. You know, I haven't heard this series talked about that much, but I definitely think you should give it a try if it interests you. You might be pleasantly surprised. I know I'm definitely, I can see myself rereading this in the future for sure. But that's been my review of the Gotham City Sirens Omnibus. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about the review or the book if you've read it, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I will be happy to help out. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to catch you in another video real soon, so have yourself a great day. I've been Superfly Comics Guy, and until next time, guys, you keep reading. See ya.